This is Gay News Radio with Brandon Carmody, featuring Roddy Biggs, Samuel, Laura, and Special Agent J.
You're listening to Gay News Radio. This is Friday, October 2nd, and we're here with the panel today. So let's go around the digital room and welcome everybody, starting with our special guest, Belinda Carroll. Welcome to Gay News Radio.
Well, hello. How are you doing?
Great. Will you tell us and your listeners a little bit about yourself and about your work, Belinda?
Sure. I am a stand-up comedian and writer and activist. So I don't know what else I should say.
That speaks volumes for me.
I've been on Portlandia. I do stand-up all over the country. And I've been an LGBTQ activist for about 20 years.
Awesome. Outstanding. All right. Welcome to Gay News Radio.
Thanks.
Okay. Special Agent J is on the line with us. Special Agent J, why don't you give us a brief check-in, how your day is, and if you need to, go ahead and bring our audience up to date on the breaking news, please.
All right. Well, thank you for giving me that opportunity, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. But I would hope that your listeners' thoughts, prayers, wishes would be with the families of the loved ones and the families of the victims of the recent community college school shooting here in Oregon. It happened about maybe 2.5 hours ago. And many more are critically wounded, and so the number may rise. There's still very sketchy details, but my cousin is currently attending that school. I just got a text from her. She's fine, so we're good. On that end, anyway, I kind of allayed a bit of my fears. However, in terms of today, I'm feeling great. You know what? I'm not even going to hesitate. I was in court this morning for something that was completely ridiculous, and I ended up being able to walk away free, which is why I'm able to have this conversation with you guys this morning. So, yeah.
Freedom is a very important thing, brother. I'm glad to hear you're free and clear, and thanks for checking in with us.
Yeah, I'm glad to be as well, because it was a complete BS charge to begin with, and my lawyer knew it. So that's why I was here.
All right, good to hear. And yes, of course, our thoughts and prayers to the victim of the Roseburg shooting. Samuel, Laura, welcome back to Gay News Radio. How's today for you?
Today's been swell. It's a nice autumn day, and I'm just glad to be here with the panel and looking forward to discussing some things together here. But the day is great. I'm very fortunate.
All right. Well, I owe you a cup of coffee very soon. All right, buddy.
Okay.
All right, Belinda Carroll, our special guest today. We would like you, if you would please share with us what your experience was like at the V to Shining V performance at the Curious Comedy Theater. What can you tell us about the event, and how did your set go?
Oh, it was fantastic. We had probably about 150 people show up for the show, and everybody had fantastic sets. It was an all-female lineup, and everybody just had fantastic sets. It was a lot of love in the room and a lot of support for Planned Parenthood and a lot of support for Lady Parts Justice. And I know that we did, I'm not sure as far as the exact numbers on the raffle, but we did really well with the raffle, where we raffled off a bunch of prizes that local businesses had given us, which was a phenomenal amount of local businesses. And so we did really well, and we raised some money for reproductive rights and protecting the rights of women, and you can't say anything better than that.
Well, that's great. Now, for the benefit of our listeners, can you tell us a little bit about Lady Parts Justice League? Like, what does it specifically represent, and what are its mission statement and goals?
Lady Parts Justice League was started by Liz Winstead, who's one of the head writers for The Daily Show. And it's specifically to raise money in order to give it to reproductive rights organizations, nonprofits. And its mission is basically to make sure that women have reproductive rights and make sure that they have the ability to exercise them. So she's just doing a series of comedy shows that is called V to Shining V, and it's specifically to raise money for Lady Parts Justice in order to make sure that things like Planned Parenthood get funded and things like, a woman in Texas can still exercise her right to choose and things like that.
Sure. Now, of course, that opens up the doors to discussion. So Planned Parenthood has been under assault from the GOP. It's also been a political talking point in the recent presidential debate as Carly Fiorina invoked those alleged Planned Parenthood videos in the second GOP debate, which opened up a firestorm of controversy because the videos that she's referring to have either been allegedly doctored or may not even be genuine. So I wanted to kind of ask you all real quick, what do you think about the current debate and the assaults against Planned Parenthood, where it stands right now?
I read yesterday that the video that she showed, which was supposed to be a late-term abortion. It was supposed to be like a fetus that was aborted way later than federal law allows, or way later than federal law allows, and whatever, right? And it ended up that it wasn't. It was a stillborn. It was a stillborn baby, and it was a picture that it was a video that Planned Parenthood had documenting this stillborn baby, and so it wasn't an abortion at all. It was a woman that came into Planned Parenthood because she went into labor early, and there was a whole thing with that. So, and she didn't have health care. She didn't know where to go, so she ended up at Planned Parenthood, even though that's not what they do. So, so the whole video is not only may have been doctored, but also the entire premise is completely false.
So essentially the jump ahead in the polls that Carly Fiorina benefited from by invoking that at the debate has now thrown her into controversy because the facts don't back up the video she was describing. Is that fair to say? I know that she was pretty much questioned on all the Sunday morning talk shows, and she vehemently defended the video.
Oh yeah, sure, but I mean the entire premise is incorrect. Like, just if you're gonna lambaste an organization for performing late-term abortions, then you should probably make sure that what you're showing is actually a late-term abortion, not a stillbirth where they helped a woman and saved her life because she went into labor early and didn't know where to go. Like, it's the entire premise is flawed. Whether or not the right will, I'm sure the right will still stand behind her and still say, yeah, of course, that's not the premise, but it's still, the point is valid, which is dumb. But I'm sure that that's what will happen. But she's been exposed for at least misleading people, if not absolutely lying to them.
Sure. Now I want to give some panelists a chance to weigh in. Have you guys seen the social media campaigns with everyone turning their profiles pink for I Stand with Planned Parenthood? And do you have any thoughts about the controversy from what you're seeing, either one of you?
Well, my personal opinion is that Carly Fiorina was the CEO at one point of Hewlett-Packard here in my hometown of Corvallis. And she pretty much shuttered everything but the inkjet projects and is now leasing out space of the campus to other businesses, and they are consistently failing EPA testing regulations. And I just don't see that as a person that I want running my country. I really don't. Clearly she has an ulterior motive. And, she's trying to save face and trying to appeal to a certain demographic. And, that demographic is fading and fading fast. And she's grasping at straws. And, yeah, she might, be a contender against Trump because, my gosh, please tell me we won't elect Trump. But, yeah, can you imagine that hair? My goodness, getting off of Air Force One with the flying around like something died on his head. That's just crazy. But when it comes to Carly, I just think she's reiterating, she's regurgitating is basically what she's doing. She's saying what everybody wants her to say. And can you just be your own person for once, please? That would be nice.
Samuel, Planned Parenthood's all over the news. The head of Planned Parenthood was interrogated by a congressional panel for 5 hours. Any surprises there?
No, I think, and going back to Belinda's point, I hope that people understand that, this organization maybe might not be perfect to a lot of people, but it does a lot of great work, especially for women in our culture, in our country, that are still attacked all the time for their choices on their body, over their bodies. And, that's usually what happens. You get a lot of people who are very against this because they're just following this train of thought. And then when they fall in those situations, they go to that place for help. So I hope that people know that. But what I want to add to that because I really don't have anything new to say on the topic, I find it interesting that people are still kind of in this mindset. But in Portland, there's been a handful of fundraisers held at Dig a Pony, a local bar, and I know that a local organization called Shades is working on another fundraiser for them. So I know that a lot of people are trying to essentially assist the process and also educate a lot of people on the actual work that is done, especially in a lot of parts of the country where women don't have many options. And so it's just interesting to see that this discussion is still such a big part of our world. But yeah.
Agreed. Belinda, I saw mention that if Planned Parenthood were to be shut down, which we all know is unthinkable, it will never happen, but if the clinics were shut down, would there be other clinics or other options to cover the medical need in the country? And the absolute answer is no. There's no other entity with that amount of clinics and doctors and coverage needs for women across the country. So Planned Parenthood serves a substantial need for many, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, yes, of course. I mean, the fact is that, Texas Texas passed a bill a couple of years ago that limited abortion in Texas, and now there's 2 abortion clinics in Texas where women can go. And I don't know if I lived in Texas, which is why I know about it. And if you know Texas, you know that it's a 13-hour drive from one end of Texas to the other. It's a giant state. And so when women in Texas have to drive, upwards of, 10 hours in order to get proper health care if they need an abortion. And that's including in cases of rape and in cases of the woman's life being in danger. So I think we've seen in a demonstration with Texas what would happen if restrictions were placed on where you can get an abortion and if Planned Parenthood were shut down.
I'm glad you used the word shutdown because there nearly was a government shutdown this week, as we have all heard. And there was a last-minute continuing resolution passed that essentially kicked the debate and kicked the can down the road till December so they can have more discussions about funding the government, including Planned Parenthood. Do you all have any thoughts on why Planned Parenthood has become such a contentious issue in Congress specifically? Any thoughts?
Well, I think that for me, my thoughts are that with shutting down Planned Parenthood or threatening to, there's a two-pronged thing. One, the Republican Party is very adamant about limiting abortion and limiting women's right to abortion, and essentially taking it away if they had their way. But if they can't completely reverse Roe versus Wade, then just limiting it to a point that it's non-existent. But 2 is that within the ability to shut down Planned Parenthood by reversing their funding, they're also able to use that as a bargaining chip to get things into budgets, like more money for the military and tax cuts and things like that they wouldn't necessarily have leverage on. But if they hold the carrot of, we're going to defund Planned Parenthood, then the Democrats tend to copulate and say, okay, well, we're going to, give in to your demands in order to get this funded. So I think that they use it they overuse it as a bargaining chip. But I do think that there is some vehemence and some desire there to limit women's ability to choose.
Yeah, that's right. And it's going to be part of the upcoming debates as they go through more long-term budget discussions at the end of the year and through the long presidential cycle. Anyone else want to weigh in on where we're at with Planned Parenthood? I know that it's going to be an ongoing topic.
Well, I will say that my own mother has admitted to having had 2 abortions performed before my conception. Hi, everybody. But, you know, it is a woman's right to choose. Whether you agree with it or not, it is her body. She gets to decide. She has certain inalienable rights. And you know what? Whether you agree with it or not, we should support whatever that woman chooses to do. And, you know, yeah, a source of great contention.
You know, I'm completely with the women on this, Belinda. I think that there's not even a choice in the matter. I am frankly shocked that there is even so much debate and discussion. I don't think that it should even be a choice when it comes to women's own choices about their body and their health care. Hear, hear?
Here, here.
Hear, hear.
So one matter that's in the news again right now, folks, that again should not be up to an individual's choice. Kim Davis is back in the news. We hate to invoke her spirit, even though she's living. As we all know, Pope Francis made a whirlwind tour of the United States last week, and now there's late-breaking news that Pope Francis had a closed-door meeting with Kim Davis. Pope Francis reportedly gave Kim Davis and her husband rosaries, offered his advice of continued support, and then while he did not speak on gay marriage or LGBT issues during his entire time during the U.S., as soon as the Pope was on the plane and flying back to Rome, he essentially spoke on the issue, said that there were some cases where it may be necessary for government officials to act as Kim Davis is. So I would like to get your guys' thoughts on both the Pope supporting Kim Davis and the Kim Davis phenomenon. Let's start with you, Belinda.
Well, I think that, I don't know, man, the Pope thing was kind of a disappointment. I mean, everybody was kind of over the moon about the Pope coming to the United States and, you know, his remarks on, you know, the environment and so on and so forth. I'm very disappointed that he met with Kim Davis specifically just because there's so many other people that would love to meet with the Pope that are devout Catholic, and she's not even Catholic. So I feel like it's a move more toward him saying, you know, keep fighting the good fight against gay marriage. But the fact is that the Supreme Court already ruled that marriage is legal in the United States. That specifically same-sex marriage is legal in the United States. And that completely speaks against our democratic process, in my opinion. I don't think that the Pope is necessarily ever going to be on board with same-sex marriage, or if it is, it's not going to be this Pope. I feel like, it was only 20 years ago that the Pope, I was dating a woman that was Catholic and was having a lot of problems with her parents. And the Pope, the last one, whatever the last one was, John maybe, he put a decree out that Catholic families shouldn't disown and kick out their family member if they come out as LGBTQ, right? And that was only 20 years ago. And so I feel like that, you know, the Catholic Church is 50 years behind everybody else, generally. So I don't think that this Pope is going to accept gay marriage, but I feel like by meeting with Kim Davis, I feel like that he really is saying you can fight, you know, a Supreme Court ruling, which is not true. But I do have to say that, you know, when Loving versus Virginia passed, which was the interracial decree by the Supreme Court in 1967, there was a lot of fight against that. There were interracial couples that got denied marriage licenses all over the country, actually more than the same-sex marriage deniers are doing right now. So I feel like that this is kind of a expected part of the process of getting people to accept gay marriage or getting people to accept same-sex marriage is working toward getting everybody on board and everybody to do their jobs. I feel like was just kind of expected. So Kim Davis doesn't really bother me in that her actions bother me. The poor people that come into her office wanting marriage licenses that have been denied, that bothers me. But her part in grand scheme of history does not bother me, because I know that the same thing has happened when we've tried to pass other things, and I think that eventually she'll have to resign or she'll get on board, because there's really no other choice. I mean, even the governor of Kentucky said, I don't even want to argue about this because we have more things to worry about in Kentucky than this woman not doing her job. We
Right.
can take care of it. We can figure it out, which is huge coming from the governor of Kentucky, if you've ever been to Kentucky. So I feel like that that's just par for the course. But yeah, so I don't think anything can be done about the Pope thing, but I think that he did. I mean, because the fact is that according to recent polls, like 61% of the population is pro same-sex marriage now. And I think that he really erased a lot of the goodwill that he created while he was here by doing that. And that makes me sad, because it's like, there's people that are Catholic that do have LGBTQ family members and friends and things like that. And they felt like they had somebody in the main seat there that, was logical and actually lived by the precepts of Christ and things like that. And that's been kind of proven false. So I feel bad for them. But, again, it's the Pope. Like, what are you expecting from the Pope?
Sure. Thank you, Belinda. So Samuel, the Pope first visits the United States, carted around like a hero, like Jesus, kissing babies everywhere he went. He went to the wading pool at the base of the World Trade Center for 9/11. And then after leaving the country, the bombshell drops that he had a closed-door meeting with Kim Davis. What do you think, Betty?
Yawn. I've told people this for a long time, and I understand that a lot of people still base their lives on religious beliefs, and I respect that. But I think there's been this movement with this particular Pope, and a lot of people get excited through, like, the language that's used in the media, as if there is a shift. You have to understand that all these religious entities make money off of people, period. There's no way around that. And this is a PR movement that slowly builds up to try to get a lot of people to be excited about their religion again, in a way, because Catholicism has been they've been blasted consistently in many ways for a long time. Now a lot of people are realizing that that type of life, so full of hatred and division, is not a great way in which to live. So then you get this person who seems cool, and he has been very particular about his language for a while, get people excited, because it's like, oh, maybe this is the Pope that's going to be okay with gay marriage and all that stuff. And at the end of the day, the religion, as it's been built, is not going to be openly okay with any of these things. So this is not surprising to me. Whether or not he met with Kim Davis, I find that to be ridiculous and a waste of his time, but that's his choice. But you know what I mean? It's such an interesting thing to get somebody and kind of put them on a pedestal, and I think that's been happening. And I say this also because of my Latin background. A lot of people I've heard are very excited about what this younger, cooler Pope is doing. It's like, yeah, man. And it's like, the religion is still what it is. Whether or not this guy is cool, I don't really know. I haven't met him. I don't really have an interest. But I don't think it really is about changing the face of Catholicism. It's about a PR movement. And we've seen that with other religions as well. It's just not in the same way. So for me, it's really irrelevant. He's not even, it's not like he lives here and he's making any changes. So for me, it's like, okay, come and go. Thank you. I'm glad people had fun when he was visiting. Let's move on. Because I think spending more time talking about it just keeps this process and this cycle going when it comes to like religious thinking, and it doesn't go with how you govern a territory. You know, like keep your religion where it is, and we keep the laws where they are, and they're very separate to me. So I really don't think much about it, but I do find that if I think about it, I find it ridiculous if he did have a meeting with that person, because it makes absolutely no sense. But it does send out a huge message if he did. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not surprised. I wasn't expecting him to come here and like wear a rainbow Pope attire. So it is what it is, I guess.
All right. Well, thank you. And I'm sure somebody will eventually Photoshop that in. Special Agent J, let me take you back 20 years. Maybe you remember this. You probably saw it with me. Sinead O'Connor performed on Saturday Night Live, and either at the beginning or middle of her song, she held up a photo of the Pope, ripped it in half, and said, "The real enemy." It went out live on the New York broadcast. The network panicked, so by the time it hit the West Coast and anything ever since, they used rehearsal footage where she ripped up a photo of Joe Pesci. So just going back 20 years and going back to what's happening with the Pope, this isn't the first time that there's been some ruffled feelings on both sides of the aisle. So what do you think about the Pope's visit and supporting Kim Davis? Give us your thoughts, please, kind sir.
All right. Well, the Pope's visit was welcome, although I think it was a whole bunch of pomp and circumstance. I have read several articles where a lot of businesses ended up being shuttered because of the papal visit, because of the route he was going to take and the number of people that were going to show up. And, you know, they're all trying to make money off of this thing. And I'm just like, that okay, yeah, it's a financial institution. I get it. All right. The Vatican has more money than God knows what to do with, apparently. And but when it comes to the meeting with Kim Davis, quite frankly, she's welcome to believe whatever she wants to believe, but as an elected official, she is required to put her signature on it, whether she agrees with it or not. It's her job to do that. The voters elected her to do that, and she refused. So the only thing I can foresee that would either a resignation or a recall, and neither one of which I see happening anytime soon. So.
Well, let me do a follow-up with everyone on that. So obviously we waited for same-sex marriage for some time. The movie Stonewall is coming out, which highlights the LGBT rights struggle from 1969 all the way through now, where we finally have same-sex marriage. But the question is this: are any of you really surprised, even though the High Court has ruled and the law is what it is, that there are so many people that are standing on religious high ground that are willing to perform the civil disobedience and stand against the law to stand up for their religious rights? Does that surprise any of you?
No.
No. Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate. It really tells you how just ridiculous the whole system is. Because at this point, we should not be having this discussion. You know, we have citizens are supposed to be protected under the law, period. And, you know, if you go out of your way to harm somebody or whatever circumstance happens, then you act accordingly. But the fact that we still have this system that essentially creates a second tier of citizens, it's just messed up, especially when it comes to religious belief. If you had the same thing happen in the United States of America right now, when it came to a majority of people using the same reasoning when it comes to something that's not a Christian-based religion, it would be a whole different story. And so it's not, you know what I mean? Like when it comes to this whole protection for your religious freedom, it really isn't about religious freedom. It's about the Christian-based freedom and the movement with the Republicans and GOP and all that stuff. And it really isn't about equal citizens. And I think that as intelligent human beings, as we claim to be, we should be able to have a conversation and a dialogue that essentially puts everybody in the same category, and then you abide by that. And so it's unfortunate.
Yes.
Well, I think that. Oh, sorry. I think that's not surprising. I mean, it's not at all surprising because people have used religion to justify all sorts of heinous shit throughout history. I mean, they used it to justify slavery. They used it to justify the segregation of schools. They used it to justify interracial marriage. They used it to justify, beating of women. They used it to justify multiple wives. Like, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So this does not make it. This is just the religious play. This is just the Christian playbook for how to protest something. This is just what it is.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that I keep thinking about when I decided to join the news business recently is that I keep seeing the same cycle. I mean, you should all be shaking your heads right now. We keep seeing the same cycle, the same type of stories when it comes to, as we've said, when challenging women's health care, women's rights, and we have a tremendous spectrum of LGBTQI issues that are ongoing, everything from trans rights, trans lives matter, all the way to LGBT youth, homelessness, and suicide. So we're trying to cover such a great spectrum, but I keep seeing news articles that are showing me what I believe to be a spinning wheel. I keep seeing a cycle of the same types of things happening in this country. Does it seem like it's getting any better, you guys?
Oh, sure. I mean, I think that we see, incremental progress. I think incremental progress adds up. I mean, 40 years ago, or now 55 years ago, Stonewall happened, and now we have gay marriage and a lot of protections for LGBT people. Now, the T part we need to work on because we don't have enough protections for trans people. But, as far as LGBT people, we're getting a lot more protections. We need to be protected federally in jobs and things like that. There's still work to be done. But I think the more that we talk about stuff and the more that we chip away at their logic and the more we show young people our logic, the more that those young people are going to grow up and change and demand different rights and privileges for everybody.
Agreed. Special Agent Jake? Is it getting better?
It's getting better.
Are you taking a bath?
Sounds like. Well, just here, because, I was born and raised in Corvallis, Oregon, and Brandon, I spent a couple of years up in Portland, and I just couldn't handle it. Too many people, too many cars, too much asphalt, not enough trees, it's too noisy. But here in Podunk, Corvallis, Oregon, in the past 20 years, I've gone from having beer bottles thrown at me to catcalls from guys in jacked up pickup trucks saying, "You're hot," and that wouldn't have happened 20 years ago. And I know it's some sort of sexualized thing, whatever. But the fact that it's become more commonly accepted, and I've actually seen like those frat guys, you would think would toss a disc in your face. What they'll do is they'll come in and break up a fight if someone's being attacked because of their sexuality. It's like, just because you don't agree with it doesn't mean it isn't wrong, and that sort of thing. And it's just this paradigm shift, and I'm really impressed with how just this local community has evolved in terms of acceptance and maturity, and it kind of gives me a bit of hope because I've noticed, I have a sister that's 8.5 years younger than I am, and I've witnessed, what she's had to go through in high school and what the atmosphere and the community is like. And it is a very different world than when I went to high school. I wish I could have grown up in her world. I really do. But I'm glad that there are so many kids out there now that feel safe and comfortable in their own skin, and they feel comfortable enough talking about it instead of hiding it and stuffing it, and, you know, reaching out for help instead of taking that one step to the lobby, so to speak. And I do see things as getting better. I really do. There's still quite a bit of work to be done, that's for certain. But I think we're on the right path. I think we are.
Let me just share this with the panel real quick. In comparison to 10 or 11 years ago in Portland, I think everyone on this conference call is from Portland. So in 2004, the Multnomah County Chair, Diane Lynn, out of nowhere, started issuing gay marriage licenses in Portland, Oregon. It was March of 2004. My partner and I at the time acquired a wedding license. We went forward with the ceremony and we got married. Special Agent Jay was there. He played piano at my wedding. Thank you, Jay.
You're welcome.
And it was incredible. My wedding day was absolutely perfect. Big Christian church. It was just one of those holier than thou moments, those life-affirming moments. And then within a short period of time, the Oregon Supreme Court put a halt to the licenses being issued, and every one of those 3,022 couples that got married in Portland, Oregon, the state of their marriages was in doubt. About a year later, the Supreme Court of Oregon tossed the whole darn thing out the window, and I got a refund check in the mail and a sort of little, sorry, you're not married type of note with a refund check. And so I'd have to say that from my experience personally, as an LGBT person who was once married and had my marriage revoked, I would rather be living right now, current terms, in 2015 versus going backwards in time. That's my experience.
Okay, well, my husband and I, and we're not legally married. We've never gone to the courthouse. We didn't go to the chapel to get married, you know, but we are married in practice, not by law. I mean, we are a couple, and there's no mistaking that. We don't wear rings. We don't fly our rainbow flags. We're just two men who love each other, and we live together. I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, I don't need a piece of paper to define what marriage is. I really don't. And, you know, when it all boils down to it, the wedding is for everyone else. The two people have already made the commitment to spend the rest of their lives together. So that's already said. The I do's are a formality. And the walk down the aisle, it's pomp and circumstance. Again, I mean, it's for everybody else. So for me,
I have to interject it. Sorry.
I can understand how it's important for a lot of people. I really can. And I do not want to step in the way of anybody who wants to go through that. That's fine. But it's just not for me. You know, it's not for us.
Once might have been my limit. Belinda, you wanted to jump in? Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to jump in because, you know, it's not important, but I can understand it's not important to him. That's fine. But for like me, I'm with my partner. My partner and I have been together for a little over 3 years. And, you know, we're raising kids together. And so marriage is extremely important to us. We're not married yet. We're engaged. We're going to get married here next year. But, you know, marriage is incredibly important to us because if anything were to happen to her, then I could take care of the kids. Whereas if we weren't married, then that would be up for debate and so on and so forth. So, you know, so I think that there are reasons to get married. I think a lot of them don't have anything to do with necessarily emotion, although it's nice to, you know, reaffirm your commitment to each other and so on and so forth. But I think that it has a lot to do with the legalities around marriage and insurance purposes and things like that. Survivor benefits, pensions, you know, stuff like that. So I think a lot of it has to do with business purposes when it's down to the nitty-gritty versus, you know, emotion, but I think it's there. And I'm, you know, of course, over the moon that we have the right to do that.
That's
Well,
perfect.
I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. My perspective on this particular issue is my particular perspective on this issue, in that I collect disability from the U.S. government, and if I were to get married, that would completely wipe that out, because my husband makes way more money than I do, and so that would take my income and wipe it out. And so there's a lot of legality that really needs to be explored, which is why I'm so much. I'm encouraging these young kids that are like, let's go get married. Please wait and think about it, because there are so many entanglements that once you get married, you're tied into that. And divorces are ugly, they're lengthy, they're expensive, and they're emotionally expensive. I mean, because, gosh, I mean, if you got married and then decided to call it quits, I mean, already right there, you're in the pits. So, I'm just asking people to think about what they're doing and for what reasons they're doing it.
Yeah, I hate to throw my 2 cents into that, but I was even warned by our pastor, you've only been together 6 months. Are you absolutely sure you want to get married? And I tried to say, well, look, we're running out of time. This is happening. And so there's reasons to and not to. But here's we're going to transition over to Samuel, because you made an excellent point, Belinda, about the benefits. At the Portland Gay and Lesbian Film Festival, which opens tomorrow, there's a wonderful film called Freeheld that will be playing at the 7th at the festival, starring Julianne Moore and Ellen Page. And that film is about a lesbian couple's challenges in order to transfer the death benefits in the house from one partner to the other. So, Samuel, coming over to you, what can you tell us about the Portland Lesbian and Gay Film Festival, and what films have you been watching and reviewing?
Great transition, by the way. I was feeling the same way, and to go back to Belinda's point, I personally have no interest in marriage, but it's so important that all of these things are available to all citizens under the law, and it's just, sure, we all need to be informed, but the fact that this is still not the case is such an issue. But yes, Freeheld, it's playing at the Portland Queer Film Festival, which is happening in Cinema 21 in the Pearl. And, Freeheld is the story about a New Jersey detective who challenges the fact that her girlfriend cannot have her pension benefits. And so the festival is showing 16 films starting tomorrow, which is Friday, October 2nd, until the 8th. And I said it's Cinema 21, so that's in Northwest Portland on 21st Avenue. And I've been having fun with this festival. There's a lot of great content. The festival is opening with a film by Peter Greenaway, which is titled Eisenstein, in Guanajuato, which is about Sergei Eisenstein and his time in Mexico. And there's some really interesting films, including a compilation of shorts by Kenyan artists called Stories of Our Lives, and that's playing on October 5th at 9 p.m. And it's just a beautiful vignette of 5 different shorts reflecting LGBTQ lives in Kenya. So you're getting a lot of different perspectives in this festival. There's also a film called Guidance by a queer artist from Canada that is really funny and kind of crass and kind of inappropriate. It's about a drunk child star who does not know what to do with his life, and he decides to become a guidance counselor in a high school. And he interacts with the students in very inappropriate ways. But it sort of showcases the importance of how we deal with youth in our culture, and it's really poignant and hilarious. So if you go to the film festival, you're going to find very different options. If you're a film goer, there's also a workshop for filmmakers happening there, and there are after parties both on the opening nights and the closing nights, so you should check it out.
Great. I'm looking at the poster for Guidance right now. It says he's getting an F for fabulous.
Yeah, Well, what's great about that project is that the filmmaker who wrote and directed also acts in the main role, and he's just really funny. And and then if you like historical films and like to learn about queer individuals in different realms, the first film, Eisenstein in Guanajuato, is really interesting, and you get to see not only the Russian portion of that queer experience, but also the Mexican part, and it's beautifully put together, great composition and cinematography. So highly recommended.
Fantastic. Thank you, Samuel. I am going to make it a point to try and go on as many nights as I can, and if at all possible, I do want to go see and support Free Help. I'm sure you all know this. Julianne Moore is my favorite actress.
The actual for Clarice Starling.
Clarice Starling. Well, actually, I love Julianne Moore most from Magnolia.
Oh, yes,
yes.
Okay.
I wanted to do a round of check-ins here real quick. Samuel, while I have you, what are you working on this week, and what's next for you?
Well, I have to say that my favorite Julianne Moore movie is The Hours. What am I doing? I am still working on book. I'm trying to put a book together, so that's taking most of my time. And just enjoying the beautiful autumn to do some photography. But other than that, we'll see what the world brings.
Awesome. Belinda Carroll, fresh off the V to Shining V performance at the Curious Comedy Theater. What's next for you? What are you working on?
Oh, I've got a show on Sunday at Slide In on 24th and Southeast Ankeny at 7, and that's with Amy Miller from Last Comic Standing. So that's my newest project. And then I've got a bunch of stuff coming up. My website's belindacarroll.org, so it's Carroll. It's my last name. And you can check out my website for projects coming up. I've got a couple of things in the works writing-wise, and I just came back from San Francisco, so I'm going to be in town for a while and doing performances around town, so check it out.
Fantastic. Thank you. Special Agent J, you kind of checked in a little bit, but now that you're free, what's next for you, man?
Well, I'm going to continue working on my screenplays, and I'm with Samuel on this one with the photography, because with the leaves changing colors, the dynamics are just so gorgeous through a lens. It's just you can't beat it, because around here we have a whole lot of maple and oak and birch, and they change into all these very vibrant colors, and they're doing it very early this year because we had a very intense summer here, and but I'm just trying to find inspiration, from the things I find around me, trying to help people out, trying to, it's like, well, I know you're going to spend it on beer, but here's $1. Just trying to pay it forward. Just, karma will come back to you.
Excellent. I just wanted to share with you all that I got to do a little bit of self-care this week. As you probably know, my favorite album of all time is Pink Floyd's The Wall. Mm-hmm. And in 2012, I was lucky enough to see Roger Waters on his epic worldwide tour of The Wall there at the Rose Garden Moda Center. Well, this week on Tuesday, Roger Waters premiered the concert film version of The Wall tour. I was able to go with a good friend, and let me tell you, Roger Waters' The Wall concert film sets the bar so high in terms of being an emotionally stirring, visually stunning, just epic performance that I can now mark my life as complete. I've seen it all. I've seen it all. I'm pretty much good now.
The last check on your bucket list. Okay, there we go.
Well, it was so great to bring this panel together. Thank you all for your contributions to the LGBTQIA community. We appreciate you all. Once again, today's panel was Belinda Carroll, Special Agent J, and Samuel Laura. Thank you all, and have a good day.
You too.
This is GNR, Gay News Radio.